different news that has been going on. I actually just drove back from Washington, D.C. about an hour ago. I have been down to D.C. 15 times in the last 9 months. DOJ had contacted me. We've been working with the Department of Justice with 2 separate deputy U.S. Attorney Generals, and if you think your voice hasn't been heard, it's been heard. When you hear that the Secretary of State is under investigation, what I can say is, you're welcome. That was one of the first things that when I went down and was meeting with one of the Deputy U.S. Attorney Generals, I brought with me the SEEC complaint that the 40 towns in Connecticut that could not legally run the election in 2024 because the registrar of voters were not certified. Absolute disaster. I sent all that information, 1,200 pages of evidence, a book of stuff, plus our analysis here in the state of Connecticut showing that Connecticut has been violating the NVRA, the National Voter Registration Act, as well as HAVA, the Help America Vote Act. I also, and it's really funny because when I saw Stephanie Thomas in a meeting in December, I told her what I had done. All that evidence that I brought to the SEEC, I hand-delivered to the Department of Justice. And 2 weeks later, I'm back down there again with some other information that we were working on. And I slid this letter in front of the Deputy U.S. Attorney General. And he looks at it and he said, well, Linda, where's the rest of the evidence? And I said, that's what I gave you 2 weeks ago. The letter from the SEEC said it was unnecessary to investigate. And even the Department of Justice could not believe it. So we had been doing a number of things behind the scenes in the past 9 months. I think one of the most exciting calls that I had gotten again was from DOJ when they had called me. There's a lot of different things that we are working on behind the scenes. I've had people contact me and say, why aren't you doing anything? We have done more in the past year than I had in the previous 7 years of Fight Voter Fraud. Not just for Connecticut, but across the country. One of the things that I agreed to, and our evidence is going to be used in court, was that I would not tell people exactly what we were doing. Because I'm doing this for my country, which everybody should be doing things for your country, and not for publicity. That's why for the past year, you didn't really hear much of anything from Fight Voter Fraud. Because we have been working our tushes off. And we have been making a lot of headway. I can tell you, when I first started seeing different states that were being sued across the country, a big smile came to my face. Because I know what part we played in that. So, like I said, we have been doing a lot. There are a lot of issues. And as I have now been calling out the Secretary of State, when anybody says, why is Connecticut fighting against bringing everything forward? Are they covering something up? 100%. Our voter rolls in the state of Connecticut have gotten worse over the last 3 years. We do the analysis to show people who should have been removed, people who have died, all of that information. And I have been sending it to Secretary of States for several years to have them clean the voter rolls within their towns. We pretty much heard crickets. And after spending about $50,000 on that, I said, forget it, we're not doing it anymore. So you know what? If anybody here in the audience wants to know who in your town should be removed from the voter rolls, send us an email at info@fightvoterfraud.org, and I'll give it to you. And if you want the state overview, we will also give you that as well. Because we need to make a difference. We need to be watching our own towns. So the other thing that Fight Voter Fraud did beginning of January was we started an initiative called Operation Verify Voters 2026. And I have a program that I do called Szynkowicz, that I talk about national stuff. We're on Rumble, YouTube, OBBM Network, TV. We already have 22 states that have reached out to us that we do the training for. And it's, thank you. And it's very basic. There's a lot of people that don't want to join groups, but they want to help. Well, guess what? They know on their street who moved, who died, and the neighborhoods themselves. They know the people that are there. They know that there's 22 people living in that one family home on the end of the block. These are the types of things that need to be brought forward. And we are also there to help anybody who wants to do the challenges, who doesn't want to be the one to report it. That's fine. Give us the information, and we will make sure that we move it forward. So we have been doing this, like I said, all across the country. We want as many people to sign up as possible, because this 2026 election is more important than even the 2024. You want to know why? Attorney Peter Tickton, which is Trump's buddy, he was on my show, and I had met him a few weeks ago when I was down at West Palm. And he said that if the Democrats get a majority, this is what is absolutely going to happen. They're going to impeach Trump, they're going to impeach J.D. Vance, and Hakeem Jeffries will then be the speaker, and then he will be the president of the United States if the Democrats get majority. So what we need to do is we need to make sure every person who is over the age of 18 here in Connecticut, who is a U.S. citizen and is eligible to vote, needs to get out and vote. Think of it as Operation Buddy System. Do not go to the polls alone. It is your responsibility to bring at least one other person with you to vote in person. In person. We do not want people voting absentee. We do not want you to vote early voting, because the Democrats are always watching, again, who has already voted. Now, we are up against a whole bunch of different things. And if any of you are wondering why Trump keeps pushing same-day voting, paper ballots, in person. You want to know why? Because of all the same stuff that has been going on that just happened in Texas in the primary between Cornyn and Paxton. In live time, the numbers were being switched. They were watching the votes, and when the votes are put into the system, they're supposed to stay there. They're not. They're there, they're disappearing, they're put back. In Texas, they ended up eliminating, I believe, 86,000 votes just within that Paxton-Cornyn race alone. They switched votes, and they also put double and triple votes on people who already voted. Fortunately, a friend of mine had called me. She had the evidence, and this will be the last thing I'll tell you. She calls me up. She goes, "Linda, I need to talk to Tulsi Gabbard." And I'm like, "I don't know Tulsi. I know a lot of people." And she goes, "Well, it wasn't one of your partners that you know knows her?" And I'm like, yes, okay, here's the phone number. And then I thought about it for about 2 or 3 minutes, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. So I made a phone call down to Heather Honey, the head of elections for DHS. And I said, "Heather, such and such needs to talk to Tulsi. She's got evidence right now in real time on what's going on in Texas. It's the same thing that's been going on across the country with the machines, and she really needs to talk to her immediately." So she said, "Well, Linda, give her my personal cell. I'm meeting with Tulsi tomorrow." So I was able to connect them immediately, and there's a lot of other stuff that was going on behind the scenes as well. I know I said I was going to say that last thing, but there is one more thing. One more thing, I can't help it. I never got into the machines. And you know how we always had all the conspiracy theory that, all the votes were being switched? 100%. And it's been going on for at least 2 decades. But it is not through the internet. It is through the machines that actually have the card that's in your phone. That is what is in the machines. That is what is going on. It is not the internet itself. There's a number of other ways. So we need to keep an eye on everything this election. First, the voter rolls themselves and who is voting. You need to get activated and be there as a poll watcher, a poll worker, stand out front, hold signs, but we need to be watching this election. It has never, ever been more important. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. I'm sorry I don't remember your name.
Gwen Sam.